Hello, Monetization Nation. Mckinsey Global Institute found that data-driven organizations are 23 times more likely to acquire customers, 6 times more likely to retain customers, and 19 times more likely to be profitable. Charles Davis is a data analytics expert and partner at Blast Analytics and Marketing, a strategic analytics consulting company. Blast solves clients' data challenges to help optimize marketing campaigns, improve customer experience, increase competitive advantage, and ultimately evolve organizations. Blast has been named one of Inc. magazine's 5,000 fastest growing private companies. Kabula reported that insight-driven businesses are growing at an average of 30% each year. By 2021, they're predicted to take $1.8 trillion annually from their less informed industry competitors. In this episode, Charles shares strategies to use data analytics to help make data-driven decisions that drive growth. Tectonic shifts are constantly transforming the earth and business, causing destruction and huge growth opportunities. I'm Nathan William, the host of Monetization Nation, where we learn how to leverage business tectonic shifts to transform monetization.
Professionally, I started actually in college. My wife and I started a meal preparation business. So I was going to school for biology and computer science. My wife had this awesome idea. We started this business. So when I graduated, we actually just focused on that business for about 5 or 6 years. So even though I had a background in technology, we had kind of carved out this little business that we were running, and we grew that to probably, I think we had about 25 locations at one point.
Wow.
And at the time, I was a client of Blast, where I am now. So I was working with them to do all of our digital initiatives. So this would have been in the early 2000s, so probably from about 2001 to 2007, and everything was online. Everybody, all of our orders came in online, even though we had locations where people came and assembled meals and took them home and everything. So we built out this custom platform-based digital platform, basically, and we did digital advertising, and we were looking at our analytics and all of that. And so when I sold that business and was looking for a next opportunity, I had worked closely with Caden Kelly, who's the CEO and founder of Blast Analytics. And over the course of about 6 months or so, we had discussions about me possibly joining. And so ultimately we both kind of took a risk and did that. So since then, Blast has pivoted somewhat. We used to be more of design development, and then shortly after I joined, and the third partner, his name is Joe Christopher. He joined about 6 months before I did. We started focusing more on analytics and true consulting, as opposed to kind of the design and development side of the digital world, and have grown, Blast from that point, relatively successfully, hopefully. We at least know that we have an opportunity to provide a great place to work to just about 65 teammates across the country and the world now. So we're most excited about that. And so yeah, that's a quick rundown on my background.
Sounds great. And you guys are certified solution partners with a lot of the leading analytics technologies, and your focus is marketing using analytics as a core component. Am I saying that right? How would you say?
For sure. I mean, we grew up kind of we still have a core competency, and we grew up in the digital world, right? We grew up from that digital analytics perspective, which is all about marketing measurement, measuring that digital marketing, and now we do beyond that as well, offline marketing. We even do things that are outside of marketing in terms of data and analytics perspective. But that's but that's still the vast majority of what we do, is helping our clients improve their marketing performance, and also optimize the customer experience. So, when you visit a website and you experience, you're searching for things and trying to accomplish your objectives, our goal is to help our clients have that experience be the best it possibly can be. And not just on the website, but then, if you're going to go in store or call up a sales rep or something like that, that our customers can, understand how to best serve that customer.
Okay, so with that said, before we dive into analytics, I want to talk to you about that Digital Analytics Association that you just brought up, that you and John serve on. One of the chapters in this book talks about credibility marketing. And one of the sections that I was working today on in that book is about the power of associations and trade shows, and going through all the different reasons that those can help you build your credibility. You want to talk a little bit about how participating with that particular, or with associations that you've participated in, how have they helped you to build your credibility within your niche?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, analytics in general, I would say, and then digital analytics, even more so. One of the areas where I think we struggle as an industry is we don't have a true codified, industry-wide type of certification that just, everybody, knows that, oh, if you have this, then you're qualified to do this job. It's not like a lawyer passing the bar exam or a doctor, right, getting a medical degree. And so it's a little bit, ironically, it's ironic because it's a little bit more art than science in terms of establishing, credibility and really building up that credibility within the industry. But I think, for me, what has been, I think, the two biggest factors is, one, serving as part of the Digital Analytics Association. So I just recently joined the board of directors, but I've been a member and kind of volunteered on different initiatives, as well as helped lead the local Bay Area chapter for 7 or 8 years now. I'm not exactly sure. And just that opportunity to serve and try to help the industry move forward through, educational events and other initiatives that I've helped serve on, builds that credibility as you just have an opportunity to work with your peers, right? From different companies. And then I think the other aspect of credibility just comes from, somewhat just from longevity and going to conferences and events, which, unfortunately in the COVID world that we have now, has all gone online. But it's been really the fun part about having some online conferences that I've attended is, you do get to see people's faces sometimes, and it's like, oh yes, I haven't seen you in so long, but I know I've seen you every year at the last, at Adobe Summit, for instance, or, other, DA Hub or other conferences that are in our industry. And, just those opportunities to share knowledge. I've presented at different conferences as well. Gives you that opportunity to build up that credibility. And one of the great things about, our industry is it is a very supportive industry. There's a lot, we have, it's called Measure Slack. So it's run by a guy named Lee Isensi in our industry. And he set up this Slack channel that's all about our industry. And it's really cool because, people can participate and ask questions, and they'll get 10 other people, answering those questions. So it's things like that, the sharing of knowledge, the participating in the community, that I think ultimately builds up that credibility. And I think that's available in any industry, right? I've been in this industry for a while, so I don't have as much familiarity with other ones. But almost every industry has some kind of community associated with it. And if you go into that community looking to serve and help others, then you'll gain a good reputation, and it'll give you an opportunity to continue to grow and progress in your career.
Okay, let's dive into analytics a little bit. So,
Sure.
one of the businesses that I worked for was run by Clark Gilbert, who's now the president of BYU Pathways, and
Cool.
I was doing work for him at Deseret Digital Media, and one of his core strategies was data-driven decisions. He taught me that it doesn't matter what my opinion is or somebody else's opinion is, test them both, and let's find out what actually works, and let's make our decisions based upon the data. And that was such an enlightening perspective that kind of changed my perspective on business. That get great data and make great decisions based on data, and you look really smart, but you're just finding out what's working and you're doing more of it. Do you want to talk to me a little bit more about why it's so important to make to have a good knowledge of the data and then being able to make good data-driven decisions?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the phrases you used there is a phrase that we talk about a lot, and that is helping our clients do more of what works and less of what doesn't, right? And yeah, ultimately that comes from the data. I actually happen to believe in intuition. I think a good business person, a good human, we have good intuition for the most part. It's in the details where we can really use data to drive that intuition forward and make sure that our business decisions that we're making are as informed as they can be, and are, as you said, data driven. And so I worry sometimes that people think, oh, making data driven decisions means that we're not using our business sense, we're not using our intuition. We always are, right? But making good data-driven decisions means you're making that decision with all of the right information that you need in order to make the best decision that you can. Because our intuition doesn't work if we have bad data to make that decision off of. And so that's where I think, when we look at, how do we become a more data-driven company, or how do we change our culture? We work with our clients a lot in those kinds of areas. We work with that mindset of, having the right data so that we can have the right context, so that we can make the right business decisions. And in terms of just establishing kind of a philosophy around that as a company, like I said, we use that phrase that you used, right? Which is do more of what works and do less of what doesn't. And but identifying what those two things are takes testing and having a hypothesis and having data to drive that hypothesis and see what's working and what isn't.
Yeah. Okay. So for an entrepreneur, tell me what you think are the most important pieces of data that you think he or she needs, and what are the most important software tools that they should be using to gather that data?
That's a great question. So I think there are two types of data that we talk about within within our world, right? And so as an entrepreneur, I think it's important that you understand what those two types of data are and how you can use those types of data to really learn about your customer, learn about your business. So oftentimes when we talk about data, we too often only think of what we would call quantifiable data, right? That would be like, how many visitors do I have to my website? How many sales do I have? How many sales of each product did I have, right? And what's often missing with that is the qualitative side, right? Like, well, why were those people coming to our website? Why did they purchase, things. And so if I had, advice to an entrepreneur, it would be, understand what the difference is between, quantitative data and qualitative data, and collect both. You don't have to, in a quantitative perspective, oftentimes if you're in a small business situation or even a medium-sized business situation, sometimes you don't have enough quantitative data to really make good decisions, right? You just have too small of a sample size if you're a relatively small business. But on the qualitative side, if you're getting, if you're collecting a survey data, for instance, from even 5% of your customer base, and looking at that in a meaningful way, you can find nuggets that you'll just never think of, right? Because we also talk about having the curse of knowledge as entrepreneurs, right? We know our business really well, and we know how everything works, and then we get blind spots when somebody from the outside comes in and is using our product or our service, and they're like, I don't know how to go from step A to step B, right? And we're thinking it's obvious to go from step A to step B. And that's where, one of our clients that we've worked with, we were doing a quantitative test, right? They had enough traffic that we're doing it, basically kind of like an A/B test, right? On a page that's part of a workflow. And we see, in this case, we saw results that we weren't necessarily expecting, right? Because when we go into a test, we have a hypothesis. We think, we're testing this for a reason, and we think this is what's going to happen. And in the case that I'm talking about, we got results that we didn't expect, right? But luckily, we also had, qualitative data that we were laying on top of that test, and we were surveying a small percentage of those customers. And what we found was, there was a set of customers that were coming to these pages that had a completely different purpose for being there than what we were thinking when we were building the test, right? We didn't realize that there were customers coming to this area of their website, in this case, with that intent, right? And we never would have known that if we just ran the A/B test, right? We would have just sort of said, oh, this one won. We don't really know why, but this one won. But by having that qualitative data to layer on top, we learned something, right? And that's ultimately what the data is there to do. It's to help us learn and grow and be better. And so, if as an entrepreneur, you can understand that difference between qualitative and quantitative and incorporate both and look at both as inputs to your learning, I think that's my probably best advice.
So going back to analytics, if I'm an entrepreneur, I've got a small business, and I don't have all the money in the world to buy all the high-end analytics tools, what are the most important analytics tools that I should be using, and what are the most important pieces of data that I should be looking to from those analytics tools?
Sure. So from a digital perspective, we're fortunate that the digital analytics world is actually pretty powerful in the realm of free tools, right? So Google provides Google Analytics Standard, which is free to customers. They
up
have
to a certain usage level.
Yeah, up to a certain amount of traffic, right? Mm-hmm. If you're a small business. So I think that's ubiquitous amongst websites, right? Like, probably 90+% of the websites in the world are using Google Analytics because it's free, and there's so many small websites out there. So that's probably very well known, but I think what's less well known is Google also has, a free data visualization tool that's fairly easy to use. It's pretty simple, called Google Data Studio. That you could use, that you can pull even just spreadsheet data in, right? So if you're a company who has, you're running off QuickBooks, and you've got your customer data stored in a custom database, right? From some, let's say you're a lawyer, right? And you use some kind of law practice management software, right? And it may not have like a great reporting functionality within it or analysis tool within it, but you can export that data into a spreadsheet, right? Well, you can use Google Data Studio to, even a relative novice can use that tool to connect a visualization tool to a spreadsheet, and now start analyzing, actually see, visualize your year-over-year trends to understand, how your business is performing, and or even say, like, I'm going to start segmenting my customers, right? So in terms of, tools to use, I would say, the Google tools, and then we talked earlier about, from a website perspective, being able to get some qualitative data. There are some relatively inexpensive tools like, Session Cam and Hotjar that you can put on your site that will allow you to ask, kind of survey your customers, and, get more qualitative data. So I think those are probably, some of the more, small business entrepreneurial, targeted tools. And then from like, what should you be measuring? Obviously that's a impossible question to answer for everybody. So I'm going to take it even a little bit more like theoretical than practical maybe. But you should always be segmenting your data, right? And segmenting specifically your customer base, right? Because I don't know of any company where every customer that comes in through your doors, it has the same needs and is the same type of customer, right? So if as an entrepreneur, you can understand, who are your best customers and what are they doing, right? And how often are they repurchasing from you and things like that? Who are kind of your average customers and what's their behavior like? And then who are your customers that, they just came in that one time on a random basis, and they're probably never going to come back again, right? Just understanding that type of question, being able to segment your customers into like your best customers, your average customers, and your worst customers. Well, now you've opened up yourself to have an opportunity to say, okay, well, I intuitively know how I want to treat my best customers. I intuitively know how I want to treat my average customers. And I know I just want to ignore my worst customers, right? Because they're just going to show up and do what they do, and then they're going to leave, and I don't have to spend money trying to get them to come back, because they're just that's the type of customer they are. So that segmentation, I think, of your customer base is probably the most powerful thing that a business owner should be doing with their data.
Thank you so much, Charles, for sharing your stories and knowledge with us today. Here are some of my key takeaways from this episode. Number 1, do more of what works and less of what doesn't work. Conduct tests to discover what actually works, then make decisions based upon the data. Number 2, we can make data-driven decisions together with our intuition to help improve the success of our decisions. Number 3, sharing knowledge, being involved, and serving within the community create opportunities to grow our careers and gain credibility. Number 4, look for ways to gather quantitative and qualitative data. Number 5, there are great, free, and inexpensive tools out there to gather and analyze data, such as Google Tools, Session Cam, and Hotjar. Number 6, segment data specifically to a customer base. If you enjoyed this interview and want to connect with Charles or his company, you can find a link to his LinkedIn profile on the blog for this episode, or you can visit blastam.com. Did you like today's episode? Then please follow these channels to receive free digital monetization content. Number 1, get a free monetization assessment of your business at monetizationnation.com/assessment. Number 2, please subscribe to the Monetization e-magazine at monetizationnation.com/e-magazine. You can also subscribe to the Monetization Nation YouTube channel or podcast. And you can follow Monetization Nation on Twitter and Instagram. When have you seen a company effectively use analytics and make data-driven decisions? Please join our private Monetization Nation Facebook group and share your insights with other digital monetizers. Thanks for joining us for this episode. I hope you have a fabulous day. Do you want to become a better digital monetizer? To receive great monetization stories and secrets, please go to monetizationnation.com and join free. And if you liked today's episode, please subscribe to the show and share it.